In war and in peace, the one constant here in Washington is politics. Joining me now, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, an Iraq combat veteran who is now a Democrat from Hawaii on both the Armed Services and Foreign Affairs committees, and Mike Rogers, CNN national security commentator and the former chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Thanks to you both. I actually want to start with Kayla Miller, the U.S. aid worker whose fate is unknown, and Diane Foley, who was the mother of the man who was beheaded, one of them, said this: Kayla, along with our son and others, were held for nearly 2 years, and there were many opportunities along the way, several times when the captors reached out, several times when returning hostages brought sensitive information, and yet nothing was done to save our young Americans. Knowing what you know, I'll start with you, Congresswoman. Do you think that's true, or is this the understandably distraught feeling of a mother who lost her son?
Well, first of all, it's unimaginable to try to put ourselves in her position or in the position of the parents of each of these people who have either been beheaded or slaughtered by these radical Islamic extremist terrorists. I think it's important for us as a country, as leaders of this nation, to not allow ourselves to be terrorized by these radical extremists, not allow ourselves to fall into the trap that they are trying to set up, and understand that when these very difficult things happen, just as we've seen most recently in Jordan, that we must strengthen our resolve, we must strengthen our focus and commitment, understanding exactly who our enemy is, why they are perpetrating these horrific acts, and then come up with an effective strategy to defeat them. And
you were in Congress chairing the Intelligence Committee when a lot of these issues were coming up. Is the U.S. doing enough? I mean,
well, it's a very difficult circumstance. Obviously, for the mother, I think she is distraught. She's trying to find a rational thought in something that is completely irrational, the beheading of her son. That's set aside. You know, the United States took a pretty significant risk in sending a pretty daring rescue mission. Now, the intelligence proved to be a little old. They were a little slow in implementing. But the fact that they would risk these soldiers and special forces communities, personnel's lives in the rescue attempt shows, I think, that there were good faith efforts. Remember, in the Foley case, the amount of money was something like $132 million, if my memory serves me correctly. That is not a realistic number for negotiation. They really never intended to turn Foley over. They were using all of this for propaganda, and that's, I think, adds also to the difficulty.
So that's I mean, that's an interesting point, because some of these parents and family members are saying it's the U.S. policy law to prevent us from giving money and paying the ransom to get our family members back. I'm assuming that you think that that is a good policy to stick with, particularly since you think it's just a ruse.
Yeah, I even think smaller amounts cause trouble. And remember, this is those hard decisions, but that one person at risk? If you do this, how many other people do you put at risk? How many other Americans do you make targets on their head who are operating in that region? That's the problem. And so it is horrific because you get to know this person, but think of the people who are exposed if you make these ransom payments.
Yeah. Congresswoman, I want to ask you about what to do now with regard to ISIS. You are somebody who actually has been there. You were in combat in Iraq. Do you think it is the right thing to be sending in as many as 10,000 ground troops, as some are calling for, in order to just try to completely annihilate ISIS once and for all?
Well, first of all, on the question of ground troops, I agree with the two people, Senator Kaine as well as Senator Cruz, who just spoke earlier, that yes, there do need to be ground troops on the ground to work in conjunction with the airstrikes that we and Jordan and some of the other coalition forces are conducting in order to be effective. But I think we also need to take it one step previously. We need to start with the basics, which is, first of all, identifying who our enemy is, understanding that this war cannot be won, this enemy and threat cannot be defeated unless we understand what's driving them, what is their ideology. And the fact is, when you look at what is happening today, we have over 40 different Islamic extremist terrorist groups going by different names. You look at the vast majority of terrorist attacks that have been committed around the world, there's one common element here, and it is this radical Islamic ideology. And in order to defeat it, we have to do so militarily, but also simultaneously, it has to be an ideological defeat as well as a political solution that's offered.
And on that note, you know, you've been hearing so much talk over the past couple of years about the fact that you've got to have a strong leader in the region to do the things that you just talked about. Now, unfortunately, because of what happened to the Jordanian pilot, you have the King of Jordan now being able to rally his people. Is he the leader that the United States and the Western world has been looking for in order to combat the Islamic extremists?
You know, the king who spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. over the last few years, really talking about this growing extremist problem for the region in eastern Syria. So he's been laying out plans literally for 3 years on how he thought that the United States should help the region. This could act as the catalyst for discussions that have already happened. And I think the king believed he couldn't wait any longer. And this was, in an odd way, his permission to engage in the very plans he's been laying out. He understood, probably more than any other leader in that region, the danger of this extremist group and what it meant to all of the leadership to Sunni-led nations.
And having been on the ground there, do you think that this was an unfortunate but maybe
galvanizing
turning point,
where not only for the leadership of some of these more moderate Muslim and Arab countries, but also for the people there to be able to support those actions. And I think, again, going back to my last point, the King of Jordan, when he was here just a few days ago, he made that point, that this is about having a decisive military strategy coinciding with an ideological war that's existing now within Islam. And this is something the King of Jordan said has been going on now for the last 1,400 years. And it's time for leaders to step up and take action.
Congresswoman, thank you so much. Former Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to continue this discussion for sure.